From the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C.
She greets us each morning with her warmth, her beauty, and her charm, and she captivates us with her humor, her authenticity, and her verve. The Today Show is better because of Hoda Kotb. Television is better because of Hoda Kotb. And I don't have to say this because we work for the same company. I love Hoda. Hoda started co-hosting the fourth hour of the Today Show in 2007, and it has since become must-see morning TV. And I think we love to watch her because in many ways, she truly is just like us. She is willing to show us her overstuffed wallet. Do you remember that? Share war stories about her bad hair days. And she also has revealed her age and her weight on live TV. Now, does it get any more real than that? But she also talks a lot about what's meaningful and important to her, and that is her family, whom she loves fiercely. Her mom is here today, giving back to her community. Yes, Sammy. Giving back to the community and living her best life. That is why we love her. She is an inspiration to us, and she just gets it, and we feel connected to her, and we root for her, and we cry with her, and I just feel like everybody wants her to move to DC so we can be friends with her. That's how I feel anyway. And it's okay to admit that a lot of the reasons why we tune in is to see her grooving to the latest music she's listening to on her iPod, tasting a yummy cocktail, or 2 or 3, or talking about her blossoming romance. But let's not forget that Hoda Kotb is an intrepid journalist. She has been a Dateline NBC correspondent since 1998. She has covered the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina and has been there in the trenches. She has also been in the Southeast Asian tsunami coverage, and she has covered the real wars of Iraq and Afghanistan. She has won a number of awards, including a Gracie, a DuPont, a Murrah, and a Peabody, but perhaps her greatest accomplishment is fighting breast cancer. Hoda is a 3-year breast cancer survivor. And she has shared her battle on the Today Show and in her New York Times best-selling book, Hoda, How I Survived War Zones, Bad Hair, and Kathie Lee. And she continues, don't you love it? It's the best title. And she continues to work tirelessly to raise awareness for breast cancer. And I love the fact that this weekend it was the kickoff for the Susan G. Komen 3 days. So I think it's fitting that she is here today. And if that is not courageous enough, she has appeared on TV without any makeup on. I mean, this is a real woman. Ladies and gentlemen, the talented and beautiful Hoda Kotb.
Hi, everybody. I brought my purse up because I wanted to show you my wallet. Hold on. Okay, I know you all, don't lie, you have one just like it, okay? Stuff full of God knows what, but I like it. You guys, thank you so much. I'm so thrilled to be here. As you know, my mom, who's in the front row, she works at the Library of Congress, so there's a little bit of home cooking. I love coming to DC, and I love coming to this particular event. I'm a big reader. I like reading, and I'm an active reader. I'm like a hunter. I look for 4 words that when they are strung together, they make my eyes well up. I look for something that moves me. So when I was younger, I wanted to be a journalist. I thought that would work for me. So I graduated from Virginia Tech, and for all the Hokies, and I here was my life plan. I had one job interview lined up in Richmond, Virginia. My mom lived in Alexandria. Okay, so ho ho Richmond. So I got a new green suit. I got my hair all blown out, and I asked my mom if I could borrow her car because I was going to drive an hour and change to Richmond and go get a job at that local TV station and then come back and move my stuff. And my mom was like, you can do it. So I got in the car, I got to Richmond, and I looked around. I said, this is going to be a great TV station. I'm going to sit there, and I'm going to date him, and my whole life is just going to work out, okay? The guy put the tape in the machine, he played it, he watched it for about 30 seconds, he popped it out, he said, Hoda, I'm sorry, you're just not ready for Richmond. Now, that had not dawned on me. I thought I was going to get that job. And I said, is there something wrong with my tape? He said, you're just not very good, and we want to wish you good luck, and bye-bye. So I'm walking out, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I don't really have another plan. He said, well, wait, before you go, there's a buddy of mine who's hiring in Roanoke, Virginia. If you drive the extra 3 hours and change, I know he'll hire you. I said, please call him and tell him I'm coming. So I called my mom. My mom was like, how was Richmond? I go, Mom, I don't want Richmond. I want Roanoke. There is a job in Roanoke for me. I got in the car. I drove to Roanoke. I looked around the newsroom. I'm like, this is pretty good. It wasn't as great as Richmond, but I'll sit there and I'll date him. This will work out just fine, too. The guy in Roanoke puts my tape in the machine. He plays it for about 30 seconds. He stops it. He says, Hoda, you are not ready for Roanoke. And I'm thinking, who in the hell is not ready for Roanoke? But anyway, me, right? So I said, is there something wrong? He said, you're not very good. I want to wish you good luck, bye-bye. So I'm walking out. I'm thinking, what is wrong with this resume tape? And he says, wait, before you go, I have a buddy of mine who's hiring in Memphis, Tennessee. I'm telling you, if you drive there tonight, because he is leaving in the morning, I'll tell him you're coming for an early morning meeting. I said, please call him and tell him I am coming. So I said, Mom, I am going to Memphis. And she's like, is that where Elvis? I said, that's where Elvis is. I started driving across the great state of Tennessee all night long. I drove and drove. I pulled up into the television station parking lot. I said, I've got to get this job. So I walk in, I meet the guy, I look around, he puts my tape in the machine, he plays it, he watches it, he stops it, he says, Hoda, I'm sorry, you are just not ready for Memphis. I said, my God, what is wrong with this situation? He said, I want to wish you, good luck and bye-bye. So I'm walking out and he goes, well, wait, before you go, he said, I have a buddy of mine who's hiring. I was in the car, you guys, for 10 days, driving from news station to news station. 27 news directors rejected me. Birmingham rejected me, ABC, NBC, CBS, all 3 in that city. I drove to Dothan, Alabama. Where is Dothan? We don't know, okay? I got rejected in map.dothan. Then I drove into the Panhandle, where, of course, there were plenty of other rejections. So then I was over, right? It was 10 days. I'd slept in the car like a homeless person. My mom needed the car back, and I said, I just got to go home. So I started to drive north. Now, when I'm sad, I listen to James Taylor. So I turned on James Taylor, and I started driving, thinking about my life is ruined, and I was going to drive north for a while and then over to Virginia, east. That was the plan. And I got lost in Mississippi. So you know how they say God gives you a sign? Well, I look up and there's a sign and it says, our eye is on you, CBS, with like a CBS eye. I said, I am going to get rejected here in Greenville, Mississippi, and then get a map and go home. That was my plan. So I go in there, and there's a guy, he's like, hey, how you doing? I go, good. He goes, I'm Stan Sandroni. I'm the new news director. I was sports director until yesterday. I was like, oh, that's good. And he goes, anyway, let me see your tape. And I was like, okay. So I'm depressed because I'm not any good. He takes my tape, he puts it in the machine, and he plays it. And he watches it. He is watching the worst tape in history, the whole 27 minutes of it. I'm in front of my Tri-Delt sorority house with a kitten. It's a bad tape. You don't want that tape, okay? When it was over, I'll never forget, he stopped the tape and he looked at me, and I'll never forget what he said. He said, Hoda, I like what I see. I was like, you do? I couldn't believe this man liked me. He hired me on that day, and I'll never forget Stan Sandroni. They said, bring someone to Studio 1A who has changed your life. And I brought Stan to the Today Show set, and he was like, I just knew you could do it. I was like, you were the only one. And just to show you how much he believed in me, one day I'm in the newsroom, and I'm working on a story about how the Girl Scouts need more leaders or something like that, and I'm typing it, and he walks in and he busts in. He goes, who has a blazer? I go, what? A jacket. Who brought a blazer? I go, oh, I have one. It's over there on the wall. And I thought, you know what? He wants the blazer so that someone can wear it for a stand-up. He goes, oh, good, you're anchoring the news and sick. I was like, okay, so the litmus test for who anchors the news is who shows up to work with a blazer. I'm always going to bring a blazer. Okay. So it was almost news time, right? It's 5 minutes to 6. I have never done it before in my life. I am petrified. So I'm praying and I'm deep breathing and please God and let me make it through and all this. So the light is in front of me and there's a teleprompter and it says clearly, good evening, I'm Hoda Kotb, Ann Martin is out sick. I'm like, please, please, please. So they go, stand by, and they cue me, and I look at the prompter and I say, good morning, I'm Ann Martin. I was like, oh my God! Oh my God! You know how you want to just start, you're like this, oh no, let's start one more time. Now, I don't know about you, but when I mess up, I keep messing up, okay? It was a nightmare newscast. I was flubbing and messing up. It's like I was on a toboggan screaming down a mountain. I wanted it over. And when it was over, 30 long, horrible minutes, I look over and the guys on the floor were like, hey, good try. Anyway, they're reaching for my microphone and like shaking off the bad cooties on it so Ann doesn't get them. And I came into the newsroom expecting a pink slip, and I look around, and he's gone. The news director is gone. So I'm thinking I'm fired, but that'll be tomorrow. So I went to the grocery store, which is what I do when I'm in a funk, and I'm looking for something sweet and fattening. So I went right to the ice cream aisle. I'm like, oh my God, I've blown it. I got fired in the smallest market in the country. Where is Ben & Jerry? So I'm looking, and this crazy freaky lady comes up, and her hair is nuts, and she has a few teeth. Anyway, and she looks at me and she goes, oh my God, I just seen you on TV. I felt so sorry for you. I was like, oh my God. So that was it. So I went to work the next day, and I felt terrible, and I saw Stan. I go, hey. He goes, well, that was no good, but, well, Ann's sick again. I'll just give it one more go. I thought, takes one guy, one person looking out for you to help you out, and that's what happened with me. By the grace of God, I sort of hopscotched around the country and got, you know, sometimes you just feel like you just get one lucky break. I was working in a place and I got another job, and I wound up at the network, which to this day is still shocking to me that I'm there. And I learned some important truths when I was there. Number one, and arguably the most important truth I think about the network of all time, is that there is no one more handsome than Stone Phillips. I don't care if he's retired. No, he is the A1 number one, okay? The second thing I learned is that this job can be really glamorous when you're at the network, and it can be really unglamorous. And when it's glamorous, it's unbelievable. I mean, you really can't believe, like you're at the Olympics or at the Emmys or whatever, you're interviewing heads of state. And when it's unglamorous, it can be unglamorous. They sent us to Pakistan to do the Why Do They Hate Us story. So we were there, and it was a huge, like a riot. You know, there was things were on fire, and George Bush effigy was burning, you know. Anyway, we were an all-female team. It was me, my producer is a woman, the sound woman was a woman, the translator fixer was a woman, and the cameraman, he was a man, but he was so girly, we just called him one of the girls. Anyway, so all of us girls were shooting this protest, and there was chanting in a language I didn't understand, and it sounded like Zabu, Zabazoo, and the Pakistani fixer translator, who was all in Prada and very prim and proper, was like, this is very hostile, we've got to go. And I was like, look, we're in the news business, so we have to shoot, so, you know, we're gonna shoot. So, Zabu, Zabazoo was getting louder, and she goes, I'm telling you, we must go, it's hostile, got to go. I was like, look, if you wanna sit in the van, go sit in the van. I go, we have to shoot this. And then it was Zabu, Zabu, it was getting so loud, I go, what are they saying? She's saying, they're saying, get these whores out of here. I go, who are the whores? She goes, you and me. I was like, oh, okay. Why didn't you say something? No. But it taught me to listen to people who were much smarter than I when you're out there. I also learned the third truth really is that people are incredibly resilient, amazingly resilient. I went to New Orleans to cover Hurricane Katrina, and that was a very personal story for me because I'd lived there for many years. I met my husband there. It was just one of those places that was so meaningful to me. And I've covered tragedies in other parts of the country and the world, but it never felt that personal. They sent me to the I-10 causeway, which was where they were, remember, plucking people off the rooftops and putting them on the road so that buses could come and take them elsewhere. And a woman came up to me and she said, Hoda, and it was like thousands of people who were all distraught with no, not much food or water or anything. She said, I'm the principal at Bonneville High School. You spoke at my kid's graduation. She said, my mom needs insulin. And I looked and I saw her mom and I didn't see any medics, and then another guy came up and he said, I'm the guy from Circle Foods. I check you out all the time. My dad needs water. And I so wanted to be the Red Cross and not a journalist at that point, but you're there for a job, and I'm looking around thinking I couldn't believe this was happening. And this woman who was worse off than everyone just was sitting on the highway, and I said, are you okay? She said, no. I said, tell me what happened. And it took her a while, but she said she had her 2-year-old with her and another son, and she said a bus pulled up for women and children and the elderly, and she passed her 2-year-old up on the bus. She reached down to grab her other son's hand and the plastic bag that was everything else she had, and the door shut on the bus because there was a crush, and her child was on a bus going somewhere. They didn't tell you where the buses were going because they didn't want people not to get on a bus because it wasn't going where they had family or friends. So in this sea of a million people, she's standing there with no help. So we called over one of the police officers, and I said, please tell him exactly what you told me. And I'll never forget this guy. She told the story. He took his walkie-talkie, he handed it to another person, and he said, I'm going to go find that baby. He put her in his squad car and drove. I just saw taillights driving away. And we learned later that child wound up in Houston, and mother and son were reunited. But at that moment, on that highway, I kept thinking, like, what? God, you talk to God, like, what's happening? So I'm sitting in the car, and I'm thinking, this is a nightmare. And a guy from far away starts holding up numbers, 1504, and I start writing them down. He mouths to me, call my wife and tell her I love her. So I'm dialing on my satellite phone like a crazy person. I have tears streaming, and I can't get through. And my producer goes, what are you doing? I go, I'm trying to make this phone call. He goes, listen. He goes, first of all, you're sweating through your shirt. I was like, okay. He goes, we need to shoot a stand-up, and you look like a mess, so clean up. I was like, okay. Now, humor and tragedy are separated by a tiny thread. Okay, so I'm in the car. I'm thinking, oh, God, I got to change. Where am I going to change? And I look around, and I'm thinking, who cares? I'm just going to change in this car. Who cares? So I take off my gross, stinky, wet T-shirt. I'm sitting in a soaking wet bra. I take a deep breath, and just right then, a bus pulls up right next to me. And I look up because I hear banging on the glass, and I hear, hey, news lady, we see your titties. I was like, and I gotta tell you, I laughed. You know when you get just what you need? I had tears coming down because I didn't know whether to cry or to laugh. And it just reminded me that people are incredibly resilient, and humor can get you through just about anything. I didn't know how much I was going to need all those life lessons about humor and resiliency and just listening to smarter people than you and all that stuff. As I did in 2007, I was diagnosed with breast cancer, and this is one of those weird things in your life that, I mean, on Monday, your life is great. On Monday I was working at Dateline, and I had been married for a while, and I felt great. And then on Tuesday, someone tells you that it's not so great, like your life's falling apart, and you think, how can that be? On Monday it's good, and on Tuesday it's not. So I went for a routine biopsy or whatever it was, and I thought it was going to be nothing because I think everything's nothing. I'm sure if you drink enough water, you're going to be just fine. I'm one of those, just drink water, you're good. So I'm thinking this is going to be nothing. I'm in my office with an intern. I'm on the phone. I'm talking to her, and my phone rings, and it says Mount Sinai on the caller ID. So the intern says to me, she's really sweet, she goes, oh, your phone's ringing, should I leave? And I said, no, this will just take a minute. So I'm going to talk on the phone for a second, and we're going to get past this, and then, And so I go, hello, and the man said, not good news for you. That's what I heard. And then he started saying other things about cancer. You know how you're just kind of half listening. And I hung up the phone, and this kid looks at me, and she says, I should leave. Now, keep in mind, I didn't say one word. I just listened and hung up. And I said, yeah. And she goes, can I ask you a question? I said, yeah. She goes, before I leave, can I hug you? Just like that. I remember I looked at this kid who didn't know anything. She wrapped her arms around me in my office. And, you know, they say, like, God gives you just what you need right when you need it. Well, that's exactly what happened to me. So I sprinted around from doctor to doctor, and they all said the same thing. You have to have a mastectomy and all that stuff. And I'm one of those people who, I just believe everything is going to work out okay. But I was a little scared on this one. And I had the best dream, like one of the, you know when you have a dream that's so vivid you think it's a real thing? In my dream, it was before my surgery, I was laying on a bed and all the doctors I had seen, and I had seen so many, were rimming the bed. And one of them spoke up and said, "We are so sorry. We have made a terrible mistake. It's not you." And you know in your dream when you're like, I knew it. I knew it. I was sure. And I woke up from my dream, and I remember for a second, I felt completely healthy. You know when you're like this? I was right. And then I remember I pulled down my T-shirt, and one of the doctors had marked with X's where the lumps were, so I saw that it was real. I went to my boss, and I said, I had to tell him, and you feel weird about telling your boss you're not feeling well, and I said, I have to go for the surgery, and he said, let me tell you something. I said, okay. He said, I know a lot of women with breast cancer, and they all have one thing in common. I said, what's that? He said, they're still here. And I remembered that. So I went in for the surgery, and I'm one of those people, it was an 8-hour reconstruction all in one. When it was over, I wanted it over. I don't want to talk about it. I wanted it rear view mirror. I was all full steam ahead. So a month or two after my surgery, Matt Lauer called, and he said, hey, we'd like you to go on a Where in the World is Matt Lauer? I was like, okay. He said, how about to Ireland? I said, great. So I'm thinking I wasn't all the way healed, but I thought, you know what, I just want to go do something. So I go to Ireland. On the plane ride home, I'm feeling kind of like I probably shouldn't have gone. I wasn't all the way healed up. And I was about to sit in the chair on the plane and put my earphones in, and just curl up and go to sleep. And I was like right here, and this guy next to me goes, how you doing? I go, good. He goes, you work on what channel is that? What is it, NBC or what? NBC. How's Katie? I go, Katie's nice. Like all I wanted, when you just want to, but it wasn't happening. So he starts asking me a million questions, and I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm next to Jaws. What am I doing here? Like, I just wanted to start crying. And he goes, so, what's that on your arm? I go, what? He said, what is that? And I had a compression sleeve on. I go, it's a compression sleeve. He said, well, what's it for? I said, oh, I had a procedure, and the doctor said I should wear it if I fly. And he said, well, what procedure? I go, oh, well, I had an operation, and then the doctor said you should wear it when you fly. He goes, what operation did you have? I was like, oh my God. I go, okay. I said, I had breast cancer. I said, but I hope when you get off the plane, you don't say, oh, I sat next to this girl with breast cancer. I said, I hope you have 4 or 5 other things that you think of before that. He said, let me tell you something. He said, breast cancer is part of you. It's like going to college or working at NBC or getting married. He said, so I'm going to give you some advice and you can go to sleep. I said, okay. And he said, and here it is, and I'll never, when you're about to have your life change and you don't know what's going to happen, it was happening right then. He said, don't hog your journey. It's not just for you. He said, think of how many people you could have helped on the plane ride home. And he said, you can put your stuff deep in your pockets and take it to your grave, or you can help somebody. Choice A or choice B. So from Ken Duane on the plane, I made my choice. So I decided, you know what? I'm not going to be selfish about anything. If it helps somebody, I'm in. So here's what I learned thanks to Ken Duane on the plane. I learned that my life has margins, and it's to be valued and not wasted. So I don't waste time. I hold on so tightly to the things I love, and I got rid of the things I didn't. I'm divorced. Anyway, but let me tell you how things have a silver lining. Okay, here's that silver lining. So I wrote this book, and I was at a book signing. And I'm signing books, and at the end are these 2 girls in their 20s. They're adorable, and they don't have a book. And I thought, well, maybe they don't have a book. I'll just sign a piece of paper. I go, do you want me to sign something? They go, no. We want to give you something. I said, oh, okay. And they handed me a piece of paper, and it was laminated, and it said, 10 reasons you should date our dad. So since October, I've been dating their dad. Isn't that unbelievable? So weird how things happen. It's crazy how things happen. So I feel really lucky. You never know when what's going to happen. The second thing I learned is if you survive breast cancer or anything, doesn't matter, anything big, you get 4 words at the end. If you're still standing, even if you're teetery, you get, you can't scare me. You can't scare me. Those 4 words are so powerful. All the things you were scared of before seem so little and stupid almost. And after I got sick and got better, I heard they were starting another hour of the Today Show. And I decided to do something I'd never done in my life. I was gonna, for the first time, ask for something. I always waited to be noticed, I work hard and the boss will see me, hey, I'm over here, But I decided, you know what, not today. Like today I'm going up to the 52nd floor. And I remember the feeling, I hit 52 on the elevator bank, and I'm going up, and if you would have taken my pulse, I was so calm. Because it seemed so little to ask for a promotion, so nothing. And I talked to Jeff Zucker, and I told him about the you can't scare me thing, and I'm a new girl, and this, that, and the other. And with his help, and with the help of some great producers who were pulling for me, I ended up on this show with Kathie Lee. And I'm sure if I hadn't have gotten sick, I wouldn't have asked for it. I'm sure I wouldn't be doing this job if it hadn't have been for that. The last thing I learned, and a lot of, when you get into a funk in your life where you're just like, I gotta get out of here, I love this saying, the way you spend your days is the way you spend your life. The way you spend your days is the way you spend your life. If you look at a random Monday in your life, you get up, you feed the kids, you go to school, you go to work, you have a couple of meetings, you come home, you cook, you watch Law and Order, you go to bed. And that's your life, okay? We know it's your life. That's a microcosm. If you are dissatisfied with that, with your life, you just try to change Monday. It seems little, right? You make one little change in Monday, and then pretty soon you've changed a Tuesday, and then you've changed a week, and then a month, and then a year. So I used to think to make a change, it had to be so big, and I have to go to Africa and build a school. No, it can be, it can be small. They can be little tiny changes. And I do love music, and I'm just going to share one humiliating story, and I want to hear questions. But I was working out in my mom's little gym downstairs, and it was this morning. I said I wanted to just, get on the stair thing for 5 seconds. So I was the only one in there. I had to turn the lights on, and that great feeling. So I was all by myself, and finally I was like, you know what? I had this great song came on, and I was alone, and I just started shaking it all by myself. I'm dancing. I turn around, and there is a guy who has come in and got on the Stairmaster, so I'm just going to share the song that was playing. Hold on. You ready? You'll like it, and you'll hear it. Hold on. Hold on. Wait, let's get to it. A little more volume in the back, please, Pops. Give me a little more. Give me a little more juice. Down the one-night stands. Just let's get to funky music, white boy, and then I'm out. It was so humiliating. It was bad. Come on, you can picture it right now, can't you? Just go down and check out the show. Here we go. And singing and moving to the grooving, and just when it hit me, somebody and shouted, play that funky music, white boy. Picture me just singing loud and yelling it. I just want to read one thing from for the budding authors out there. I was thinking, when you're thinking about writing a book, you're thinking, oh gosh, there's so many books, and who's going to want to read it, and all that sort of stuff. And then I picked up this book, and it talked about the great books that had such trouble getting printed. Look at me with glasses, listening to Play That Funky Music, White Boy, and wearing spectacles. It's embarrassing. Okay, this author found a rejection letter of the Diary of Anne Frank. The publisher said, "This girl doesn't have any special perception or feeling that would lift the book above the curiosity level." More than 25 million copies were sold. How about this? When the manuscript for the classic Lord of the Flies was submitted, the publisher commented, "It doesn't seem to me that you've been wholly successful in working this idea out." Okay, 14.5 million books sold. An unknown writer called Dr. Seuss presented a publisher with a manuscript titled, "And to Think I Saw That on Mulberry Street." The manuscript was rejected by 27 publishers, including one who said, "This is too different from the other books for juveniles on the market. We pass." If you're thinking about writing a book, just write the book. You know what I mean? Just start putting stuff down on paper. I started in journals, and just it sort of grew from there with a great co-writer, Jane Lorenzini. I want to give a shout out before I take questions to my mom. She is in the front row. Hey! She doesn't like standing up. I'm just going to tell you one quick story. One quick story about my mom. When we were younger, and my mom decided she wanted to run the Marine Corps Marathon at 60, right? So we were going to be there. My brother, sister, and I were so excited. So we get to it's a hot day. It's one of those weird Marine Corps Marathon days. It was like summer. So at mile 3, we're cheering, and we can already see everybody sweating. My mom's sweating. We're like, oh my gosh. So we get to mile 6, and my sister said, somebody has got to get in the race with mom to keep her going. And my brother had on flats, and my sister had on sandals. So they said, you get in. So I did. So we are going and going and going. And there's a point at the Marine Corps Marathon that if you don't get to a certain point by a certain time, they make you get on a bus because they have to open the roads up. We were in the back, as you can imagine. Anyway, so as we're trying to reach this point by 2:30, and I see a cop, and he's got his hands up. And I sprint up to the cop because my mom's behind me, and I said, we're going to go through. He said, no, you guys need to get on the bus. And on the bus, you saw faces of people who had come, and at that point, you guys, we were at mile 23. No, get on the bus at 23. So we go, I said, we can't get on that bus. My mom's like, what are we going to do? I said, we are going to go. We ran, they opened it to traffic, so the cars were licking the side of us. We were screaming and running for the last few miles. At the bottom of the Iwo Jima, I remember standing at the bottom. My mom was running up. I had this white towel, and she ran up that last part. My brother was at the top, and he was crying, but to this day he says, no, I wasn't crying, I was hungry, but I still think he was crying. But it was one of those great moments. So whenever I thought I couldn't do something, I remembered the marathon, and I thought, you know what, if my mom can run a marathon at 60, trust me, this is a small little thing to do. So here's to mom. I know you have a lot of questions about Kathie Lee Gifford. So I'm going to go ahead and open them up to you guys if you'd like to ask any questions at all that aren't too humiliating. I've been keeping my eye on you, so I'm worried already.
Hey. I'm a journalism student and actually an NBC intern here in Washington.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and so I'm curious, from all your experience, what advice would you give to a student and an intern, working in a news bureau?
Here's the thing, do anything they ask you to do. Anything. I don't care what it is, just say yes happily. And if you, on your days off, when you think you're going to relax, go into work. You really have to be the one who they can look to and say, I knew you were going to be here. I knew he's going to be the guy. You have to be that guy who goes along, because opportunity only happens when you show up. You know what I mean? A lot of people say, I'm not getting a break. Well, you're not getting a break because you're not there. You have to physically show up. And I just think, look, I think the ones who make it in this business truly are the ones who don't give up. I don't think there's that big of a secret. I think the ones who quit are out, and the ones who hang somehow stay in. You just have to be one of the ones who hang.
Cool. Great. Thank you.
Good luck. Yes.
Hi. I just wanted to say I'm here with my mom today.
Oh, where's your mom? Hey.
Right there. I just wanted to know, what have you not done yet that you really want to do?
What have I not done yet? Let's see. I'm working on another book that I'm really excited about. The concept is, it's called 10 Years Later.
Okay.
So we're taking like a significant event in someone's life and fast forwarding 10 years to find out how their life has changed.
Yeah.
And more than the book, which is interesting to me, I think it's fascinating to try to figure out if people really do change. If you win the lottery, are you different really after it, or are you still the same person with the money, or without the money usually by the end? And I like that sort of exercise. And it has been different. I mean, look, I used to do all hard news, and now I'm laughing and scratching with Kathie Lee, which is quite a different change. But it is such, it's fun to work kind of other muscles. So what I'm doing now feels still kind of new to me.
Yeah.
So I'm still, trying to get my groove on, if you know what I mean. Thanks. Hey.
Hi, thank you for coming.
Thank you.
I wanted to know, are there any authors that you've read or inspiring books that you've read that have kept you succeeding?
Look, I'm an underliner. I read Zadie Smith's book, White Teeth.
Yeah.
And I read, you know what was funny about that? I think on the very first page, the reason I loved her was because she was describing, and this is kind of, is tragic, but it was a suicide. But the way she described it, she said that the man had his head on a steering wheel and there was a hose that came inside. And she said he had his marriage certificate in one hand and his war medals in the other because he wanted to take his mistakes with him. I mean, is that genius? Like in like, I don't know, 15 words she did that. So I'm a first page reader. Like if I fall in love with the first page, I just finished a book called This Burns My Heart. It's a fictional book. I can't remember the author. I think he's Korean. It's beautiful. Like it's full of life lessons.
Great.
And I love those.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hi.
Hi. One of my favorite things that you did on the show was when you and Kathie Lee switched and she went home to your apartment and you went home to her house. It made me laugh so bad. But I want to know, because you are so funny and I can't see the difference between when you're on that funny show and then like you're in the war zone or talking to heads of state, but where do you get your energy from? Where, like every day, how do you turn it on? Because you are so funny.
It's the alcohol. Anyway, I'm kidding. We just take a sip. I know, make my mom upset. She's like, you don't even drink. I go, I know, it's kind of like just festive. You know what, a little we drink. I just enjoy what I do. I think like with anything, when you don't notice what time it is when you're at work, when you go, oh my God, it's 4 o'clock, like then you're in the job you're supposed to be in. And I feel like for me, this is that job. Like time goes by, I don't notice. And I think that sort of gives you a little bit of that juice. Plus, every day it's something new. It's a real learning experience. Do you know what I mean? Like I feel like I'm learning every single day that I'm on the show. So you meet a new guest, or you have a new challenge, or someone's being kind of prickly, and you don't really know how to treat them, and they want to walk off the set, and you're trying to be funny, and I'll get into that later. Anyway, but thank you. Thanks, son. Hi.
Hi, Hoda. Actually, you spoke at my Virginia Tech graduation in 2008. So
Go,
I'm also
girl.
Virginia
Oh,
Tech
yeah.
grad, yes.
Mr. Sandman, hello. Enter
Yes,
Sandman, yeah.
Totally remember. I just wanted to ask you, what was your most memorable experience at Virginia Tech while you were there?
I love football season beyond all else. I'm a Tri-Delt, so I was huge into my sorority, and I love the football game. So I really enjoyed kind of the big university experience. Mm-hmm. So I'd have to say, the formals. None of my answer will involve going to class at all. I don't even know when that even fit in. But probably just that feeling of screaming at Lane Stadium.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
Thank you. Good luck. Did you have a job or no?
Yes, and actually, I read your book as I was going through my job process, and it was so inspirational.
I'm so glad you have a job. I'm so glad.
Yes, I have a job.
Okay,
Yeah.
That's good. Congrats. Hi.
Hi. I don't know if you're going to get into this, but what was your most embarrassing moment with Kathie Lee?
You mean yesterday or?
Is there something that you can remember
Come
where
on.
you felt the most
Humiliated?
Or top 5. Let's do top
The
5.
top 5, Lord. You know what, I have to say in the beginning it was harder because she just blurts everything out and you don't even know what's coming. You're like, okay, it was Valentine's Day and we were on the air and we're like, happy Valentine's Day. She goes, didn't you get divorced on Valentine's Day? Which I did, but I said it in the makeup room. Like, this is the TV. I go, are we on the air? Did you say that? But I have to say, because she's so whimsical and it just comes out, you learn to laugh and roll with it because nothing is really that important or that serious that's going to do anything with your life. I mean, look, we went on with no makeup. It seemed like a good idea because you're not looking at yourself. You don't know, okay? But when the camera crew starts off the show and started yelling, my eyes, we knew there was a little bit of a problem. That probably ranks up there. And I weigh 147. Okay, yes. Who cares?
I'm embarrassed to say I didn't even know who you were, but now just listen. I
like you a lot.
Well, you know
right
what?
now.
I walked into the tent, and then I listened to you, and I thought, I've been coming here for years. I'm a retired teacher. I thought you were very spirited, funny, and your content was wonderful, especially about the breast cancer. And I think what you should do is do maybe a shorter book, just limited to that, and entitle it, You Can't Scare Me.
Oh, that's a good idea.
I mean, I really think it'd be great.
I like you.
And that popped out at me, but I just said,
Thank you.
I'm going to get your book. Thanks. Keep it up.
I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. That means a lot. You guys, thank you. I want to thank you so much for having me. You're a terrific audience. Thank you.
This has been a presentation of the Library of Congress. Visit us at loc.gov.